That's the point of it all. No one's miserable and everyone actually gets to enjoy what they do.
How's it going, everyone? So today I'm kind of talking about the first step you need to understand when you're stepping into that leadership role, especially if you're working with a team. It's understanding the value of the team. So where a lot of people run into problems is that they become a manager, director, whatever it might be, and they have people beneath them. And in their minds, they're thinking, well, I'm the boss now. I can tell people what they do, and they have to listen to me. So they step into that role thinking that their authority is going to solve all the problems. Like, yeah, the person who did it before me sucked, or, this company didn't know what it was doing until I stepped in, or, when I now have my chance, and I'm going to make everything so much better because I actually, don't have my head up my ass, etc., all these things. So they think that all the problems are going to be fixed with basically their version of, do A, do B, do C. So they get into that position, they start meeting with their team, and they start, throwing out orders. They'll say, go do this, go do that, go do this. Now, while it is a leader's job to kind of guide and give people a general sense of direction so they don't feel lost and they understand, what their responsibilities are, how they're contributing to the team, and things like that, you're not there to bark orders at people. Like, no one responds well to that. Like, if people just naturally don't like to be told what to do. So if I were to walk up to you on the street and say, hey, do this, this, and this, you're going to think, fuck that guy. If you work for me and I walk up to you and I say, hey, do this, this, and this, you're going to think, fuck that guy, but I'm going to because I still need the money, but still fuck that guy. You're not going to have people who actually enjoy that. You're not going to have people who actually enjoy working with you. So first step when it comes to leadership, especially when you're in charge of supervising a team, is to understand the team and understand how valuable your team is. So a couple of things kind of play into factor there. First, if you want to understand the value of your team, you need to understand what it is that they do that brings your team or your company value. So if you're hired from outside of a company to a leadership position, you might not have a super great idea of what your team does because you've never been on the ground floor doing it. A lot of companies these days are starting to promote from within, so I'll kind of talk about that in a few minutes. But just to make sure I catch the people who are not starting from within. If you're hired to a leadership position, you haven't actually been doing what the people beneath you have been doing. You might have been doing a similar job, so you might be pretty familiar with the basics, but you have not actually been doing it at that company. It's not the same thing. You have different players, you have different rules, you have different, cultures, you have different understandings, you have different histories. Like, it is different. Some of the roles might be the same, but, just because I can, make a sandwich here in my apartment doesn't mean that I can walk into one of Gordon Ramsay's kitchens and be like, oh yeah, I've made sandwiches before. I'll fit in easy here as long as you keep me on the sandwiches. No, because it's an entirely different game. So you might be familiar with some of the, works that need to be completed, but it's a different situation. So you really need to understand what it is that your team's going through. If you have history with that company and you know it already, awesome, skip this step. But if you don't know it, you really need to spend a lot of time with your team directly. That doesn't mean pulling people into meetings, on a frequent basis. That means you physically being close to your team every opportunity that you get. Now, I know when I say that, a lot of people are going to start throwing out excuses. Well, no, I need to be in my office, or I need to be off-site for my team, or I have so many meetings, or there's just not enough time in the day. Those are all just bullshit excuses. Really, we all have the same amount of time in the day. We all have 24 hours. The difference is that we have different priorities. So that's where you're going to see group dynamics change between a good group and a shitty group. A good group, their leader will put them as the top priority, and they will make time to do that FaceTime with them, to understand, hey, this is what you're doing on a daily basis. Hey, these are the common issues that you're all facing. Or hey, these are the unique situations that I completely understand could cause confusion because I'm confused by them as well. versus the leaders who don't put that as a priority, and they're just like, well, they know what they're doing. They should be able to handle the day-to-day stuff. They should only come to me with problems, or I don't have time for that, yada yada. So if you're one of those people who feel like you don't have time for that, you're already in a bad spot. And that's a perspective and attitude thing that you need to change, and you need to change it quickly. I'll make a video on that later on as well. But again, getting back to it, you need to understand what your team is doing day to day. You need to know their problems inside and out. You need to know their environment inside and out. You need to know the expectations that's placed on them and their response to the expectations inside and out. You need to know your team. So do what you can to get to know them as well as you can. Now, this also becomes a problem because some leaders or some people in management positions will have the expectation that I will, spend more time with my team once they start actually doing good work and they can take, time off to socialize with me. Like, basically, when my team does A, then I will do B to show that I value them. That's absolutely not how it works. It's not a, once you do good, then I will start to value you. Imagine it in like a parent-child relationship. The parents don't say, hey, once you get A's in school and, you make the varsity team and you get do this other stuff, that's when I'll start to love you and care about you. Like, if that is what your relationship is with your kid, that kid is screwed. Because, they're not going to feel safe, they're not going to feel supported, they're going to do significantly worse. Whereas if you show your team unconditional appreciation and value, like, hey, no matter how you guys do, I just want you to know that I actually really do care about you and I really do appreciate you, and when it comes to your value, like, I'm up here when it comes to valuing you. That gives them that sense of appreciation, that gives them a sense of safety, that gives them essentially the foundation that they need to do excellent work. So that is the foundation that you need to put in place. You don't hold off on your appreciation and valuing them. I need to wait until they do this huge project and they do it really, really well until I value them. You need to value them beforehand, and you need to do it unconditionally. That is when they have the potential to do this huge project, and they can do it to a fantastic extent. So, know what your team's day in and day out looks like. Essentially, you need to become an expert on your team, because once you know what they are going through every single day, that is when you can start to value them. That is when you understand what they are going through. That is when you understand how they feel. That is when you understand the pressures and the expectations and the fact that they're facing all that and they still choose to come to work every day. You understand that, okay, this project before in the past has put a real strain on your family relationships, and I appreciate that you still work on it. Or this problem in the past has really spiked up your anxiety and has super screwed up your sleeping pattern, and I appreciate that you still want to work on it. When you understand them to that level, that is when the value starts to become more comparable. You understand what it is that makes them valuable, and you see how their contributions affect what you are able to do as a whole, and that's when you're like, I need you guys. You guys are fantastic. You are, the most valuable part of my job. So, learning the value of your team is really one of the first things that you need to get down when you're supervising a new team. And again, not even supervising. If you want to lead a team, that's something you need to know. That doesn't require you to be in a supervisory position, as I've said before in the past. You just need to value the people that you work with. I mean, if I work with you, even if you're above me, and I say, hey, I really value how much support you've been giving us, I really value how much time you're putting in, I really value the effort that you're putting in to learn about us, because that shows us that you really do care. You can give that type of value in any direction. They don't even need to be in your department. They can be, 10 spots above you or 10 spots below you. It doesn't matter. You can give that value to anyone. And when you give that value to them, you're signaling that, hey, I appreciate you. I value you. This is a safe place for you to interact with me. I'm a safe person for you to work with. They feel so much more comfortable with you. Not only do they feel comfortable with you, but they actually really want to fucking work with you, because you're giving them the feeling of safety and appreciation that everyone wants. So understand the value of your team. As well, you need to understand the value of your team as people, not employees. So when I say that, valuing your team as employees is looking at Chad and saying, oh yeah, Chad's really great with hitting his numbers. He's super punctual to every single meeting. He can hit deadlines without an issue. He's really, really good at bringing up concerns when he has them. Chad is a great employee and a fantastic person to work with. That's going to make Chad feel good. However, looking at Becky and saying, yeah, Becky's been here for 2 years. She's really, really peppy, so people are happy to be around her, as well as she works really hard on the projects that she really deep dives into them to understand what the clients and her teammates want. And she has a kid who can sometimes be a handful, so she sometimes needs to take a day off, but she super makes up for it. And I love the fact that she also, loves the Twins baseball team, because we really bond over that. That is valuing that person as a person. You get so much better results when people know that you give a shit about them, because you're able to identify them as a person instead of Chad, who's just employee number 416 to me. So get to know your people as people. Get to know them on what they do on a regular basis, day in and day out. When you have that knowledge and that experience, that is when you can accurately appraise them for value. And it doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter, what you do. Their value is going to be huge. Their value is going to be like one of the most important things to you. And when you really understand the value of your team, that's when you're taking that first step into leadership. Hey, what's up everybody? I just want to thank you real quick for watching my content. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope that it's bringing you some value. I know this stuff is really good to hear, but you actually have to apply it to your workplace for the actual value to be there. So if you have any questions on how to do that, if you have any topics that I haven't covered that you want to learn more about, if you have some scenarios that you want some advice on, feel free to shoot me a message. I'd be more than happy to help people out with that. As well as if you watch the content and you're seeing value in it and you're actually interested in working with the Leadership 101 consulting company, I'll include my email in this video, as well as our website is thisisleadership101.com. Feel free to shoot us a message. We can set up a phone call or a meeting and just kind of talk about what issues are going on, what you're hoping that we can do to help out, and go from there. Thanks, everybody.